Hi, boys and girls. Today is Thursday, January 7th, and I'm very excited about this lesson. I am introducing you, and not that you have never been taught about American Indians before, but today's lesson will focus on American Indians. I want to show you this first. This is a map, and I hope everyone can see it. It's color coded with the names of American Indians all around and throughout the United States. Well, the American Indian tribe that we are talking about today lived in part of Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, and Nebraska. It's called the Lakota tribe, and I wrote it right there. But some other American Indian names that you might recognize: Apache, Pueblo, Cherokee. They're over here on the eastern side. Shawnee. The Sioux Indians were also part of the American Indian tribes that were in the Great Plains region of the United States. Let's look at our learning target. I can identify the diverse North American cultural groups of the past, so I can understand how they lived. I will know I have it when I explain one way they have changed today. Now, I know that you have learned about American Indians before, because we've always thought about them during the first Thanksgiving, because they were a part of that. They took to the settlers and taught them skills, and they all celebrated in this huge feast. Our focus today, the Lakota tribe and their famous leader, Crazy Horse. And I have a map here that, again, I hope you can see. It shows the area in that little box where the Lakota tribe lived in the Great Plains section of the United States, or that region. And that region that they lived in included Montana, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Nebraska. So a little section of all 5 of those states were where that American Indian tribe lived. Let's look at some vocabulary. American Indian, a member of any of the native peoples of North, Central, and South America, especially those of North America and especially the United States. Culture, the characteristics and knowledge of a particular group of people, encompassing language, religion, food, social habits, music, and arts. And encompassing just means all of those things are included and thought of as part of your culture. Traditions, the handing down of information, beliefs, or customs from one generation to another. Customs, the usual way of doing things. Environment, and I know you all were talking about this back in December with Mrs. Steck in reading. You defined environment. You looked at that word in a passage. Environment is the surroundings in which a person, animal, or plant lives. Region, places that have common characteristics. Contributions, the act of giving or doing something. Teepees were homes made of buffalo hides and were able to be broken down and moved quickly. Our focus today, the Lakota tribe and how they lived. American Indians of the Great Plains are made up of tribes in the middle of North America. And that's that plains section that I showed you on the map. Some of the states include Kansas, Iowa, Missouri, Wyoming, Montana, North Dakota, and South Dakota. Some of the tribes include the Lakota, the Sioux, Pawnee, Omaha, and Cheyenne. So these were the different tribes of American Indians that lived within that region, that plains region of the United States. The Great Plains American Indians were considered nomads, which means that their home was temporary and they moved depending on the migration of the buffalo. The buffalo was a valuable resource for the American Indians. It was a source of food and blankets, and they used every part of a buffalo so that they could survive. The hides they would make into wraps or blankets to keep them warm. The meat they ate, but their survival depended on whether or not they could hunt buffalo and eat the buffalo and get what they needed from that source of energy and resource that they had available to them. The land that Lakota American Indians called home was rolling hills, prairies, and plains. They lived in an environment of hot summers and harsh, very cold winters. The climate went from one extreme to another, and the Lakota people had to adjust so they could survive. American Indians from the plains, like the Lakota, respected and protected the environment and the homelands. They moved all around the region by foot to hunt for buffalo. Later, they used horses for transportation. This allowed them to quickly get place to place while following the buffalo. They mainly wore clothing and moccasins, which were shoes made from buffalo hide, and they decorated their clothing and their moccasins with beads. I've included in the Google slide a Pebble Go article. I want you to log on using the username Dry Ridge. The password is read. And I want you to watch the short video. On Pebble Go, the videos are sometimes a minute, 2 minutes. They are not very long at all. And remember, a narrator doesn't tell you anything about the video. It's just one that you watch and take in the information so that you have some schema about the topic before you ever start reading the article. Now, I want you to read the article to learn about a great leader of the Lakota tribe, Crazy Horse, and his contributions that he made to the history of the United States. Now, you have two options. You can read the article to yourself, and you can go to the top and click on each page at the top tab. You can read the article by having it read aloud to you and you following along. Again, you go to the top, the tab, so that you go to each page. Don't just read the first page that's on there. There are other sections in the article that you need to read. But if you click on the yellow speaker at the top, beside the words, the article will be read to you. And you can just follow along. Okay, I have a picture here. The Lakota tribe lived in teepees, like the one in this picture. Teepees were made of buffalo hide and were able to be broken down and moved easily. Why do you think the teepees were made of buffalo hide? Do you think that was a resource that the Lakota people had available to them, and it was something that they could use to keep them warm when they were inside from the weather? Remember, they had very cold winters, so they needed something to keep them dry and warm. And the buffalo hides were able to be stretched around their teepee and keep them warm and dry. Why would the Lakota people want to be able to move easily? Do you remember, what were they following? Because this animal, this awesome resource that they had available for food and blankets and to cover their teepees, often moved from place to place because they were looking for food and grass to eat. So the Lakota people needed to be able to take down their teepee very quickly and move when the buffalo moved. So where the Lakota people stayed and lived at the time depended on where the buffalo were, their source of food and clothing and shoes and teepee coverings. Okay, it's your turn to do the work. We have talked about the Lakota tribe, the American Indian people. You've read a Pebble Go article about Crazy Horse, the leader of the Lakota tribe, his experiences and ways that he thought and contributions he made to how the history of the United States was formed. I want you to go in to Google Form the exit slip in Google Classroom for this lesson. Your independent practice today is to complete that Google form and submit your work. And don't forget, I want you to think reflection. How well do you really understand the American Indians and how they lived? And they don't live in teepees now. They live in houses. They drive vehicles. They don't ride a horse or a canoe to get around. They have really experienced lots of changes as the years have passed and our country has become different. They've adjusted so that they could survive. So on your exit slip is a rate yourself. And that's how well do you think you understand how American Indians lived and live today. I've got it. That's a level 3. A level 2, I'm almost there. A level 1, I need some help. So rate yourself on how well you understand the lesson and the American people, the Lakota tribe. Enjoy your learning today.